I've been collecting since childhood. Took a break for a couple of years, then back at it again for 7 years straight since 2016. Even though there's a little bit of a short break, but still, I mainly collect like the newer ones. Then I resorted to collecting the older castings. Most of the collect Most of the castings I collect are mostly a balance between fantasy and realistic castings, in which I choose older fantasy castings considering how recent era Hot Wheels has been pumping up a shit ton of licensed castings and they're having a dip in quality. And if I'm being completely honest, to those people who hate fantasy casting, they lack the creativity and the imagination that they used to have back when they were like a little kid. So, sorry about the little diss. When I looked up through the internet, I saw this one casting that just sticks out for, if I'm being completely honest, absolutely no reason whatsoever. It's the Datsun 510, the wagon, and the Bluebird version. And this is a question I like to ask. What is the deal with the 510 Bluebird? And why is it so overhyped, or why is it so sought for in the market? Let's take a deep insight on why it's so popular these days, and I'll give some criticism to it. So, the 510 is built from Datsun, a Japanese auto manufacturer that's owned by Nissan. There are some variants of the 510, such as the Bluebird, 2-door or 4-door, and the station wagon model itself, in which everyone lost their minds over for the casting. We'll get to that later. It's powered by a 1.3-liter inline-4. Although there were many variants of the engine, it's still mainly powered by an inline-4 regardless. Besides the fact that it's affordable with its simple mechanics and took victories in some rally races, I don't really have any sentimental attached to it, or mostly some of the JDM fandom due to most people obviously liking Supras, Lancer Evos, Fairlady Zs, Hachirokus, Skylines, RX-7s, etc. However, since we're now going to talk about its counterpart, it is designed by Junimai, the designer of High Voltage and Chicane, RD05 and 8. It wasn't recognized that well until the vintage racing release happened back in 2011 as the 510 Bluebird version, basically. But the wagon got popular instantly straight out from the Boulevard line back in 2013. It was almost 9 years ago, and the vintage racing release happened almost 12 years ago, or 11. I feel old. So if I be completely honest, from what I can see, most people like it. It's because that it just looks like a Japanese BMW M3 E30 and its simplistic boxy looks with some tuner spice into it. But to me, it's just one of your Japanese shitboxes. Yet, if we're talking about the casting, it's a very overrated shitbox. An explanation to that is because it got oversaturated with many different variations with almost the same patterns with different wheels, apart from the fact that it's just a lazy snap and done for collectors to buy and resell at a horrible price range. And looking back at that statement, it's literally what Hot Wheels is going to do. We're going to get into the other videos sooner or later, maybe around a week or two. As I read an article from Lamley Group, this car somewhat started the JDM revolution, or the JDM craze of everything. Although there were a few made back in the 99s and the 2000s before it reached mainstream status, which is right now, early 2010s and now 2020s, they're still topping most of the profits that Hot Wheels might have gained over the years, more or less. If I'm being completely honest, I never really get why this car has a lot of love to the point where it gets overscalped to death and overpriced in the market. To some people, it's nice that they get to see a designer's car made in 1/64 scale, but to me, it's just a modern era casting the Hot Wheels staple that's just there. I don't see any sort of like speciality to it. It's just a licensed casting. I mean, sure, you probably would say the same with fantasy castings, but at least to me, there's some kind of minor details that we could see and try to like somewhat appreciate, like how Hot Wheels basically try to create their art instead of being repressed to basically, well, making more licensed castings as if they were Matchbox 2.0. And this isn't a Hot Wheels. This is more of a sort of a better Matchbox, basically. Let's just say Matchbox 2.0. I'm repeating myself over and over again. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you're probably completely right. Okay, back to the point. It doesn't bring that special feeling, unlike other castings such as Twin Mill, the Euro 2, Bone Shaker, even though Bone Shaker's over scalped to death and overpriced to the point where it's probably going to lose its touch later on, and most Acceleracers cars. Don't get me wrong, it's not as nice as the actual car. While the car itself, in real life, may be great, it's just the casting is just completely basic to me. I don't get the minds of people who haphazardly defend and overscalp this overrated ass casting as it came out of nowhere. It's sad that this casting even the older ones, are is so overpriced to the market that it makes you want to.
Hey, sex?
But if you want a better 510, you should get the Mini GT version. Hot Wheels could only get you so far with its paint apps and the slapped-in headlights. Yeah, they only have like the tampos and that's literally about it. And if you see my previous videos, you can literally see how some of the patterns of like the castings is basically familiar to one another. And I don't think people would see it because of how their brains basically got shut off in place of like the hype that's basically surrounding around this casting. But for me, you know what? It's a good thing I never really had an attachment to it. I'd probably rather get the Mini GT 510 version of it. Like either the Bluebird or the 510 or the wagon itself. It's much better in terms of detailing and how it's crafted and made. Thanks, Junamai, for that. And yeah. In the end of the day, it's just another Japanese wagon. Nothing more, nothing less. It's just a casting that's been milked to death from Hot Wheels, mindless consumers, and the soullessness of its hype. In conclusion, it's not worth getting its overhyped casting that's going to fall into obscurity sometime later, once the next big thing just suddenly appears out of nowhere. We may not know when, but it'll eventually happen soon. So, yeah, that is about it, and I'll see you guys later. Take care.